Hello, everybody, and welcome to the July edition of askLRR. I'm Serge. Today, joining me on the show, we have a Heather.
Yo.
And a Kathleen.
Hello.
A reminder that our content is brought to you by you with your support over at the Patreon at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. And askLRR specifically is brought to you by support with YouTube memberships. Our YouTube members get to ask us questions that we are going to answer. That's the entire format and existence of this show. So let's jump right on into it. Today's first question, Michael M. asks, Dear LRR folks, what is one way you have gone feral during the pandemic? A chore you now neglect, or an adulting task you just skip? Who wants to go first?
Why would you ask me to air my shame publicly like this?
It's cathartic. You get to release. We have all these frustrations. We haven't gone outside in days, weeks, months, years.
I'm pretty sure that some of that's not true. I go outside in small bursts and I take several pictures of flowers that I only post once a day on Instagram, so it looks like I'm going outside constantly.
Ooh. I like that.
That's not really skimping on something, but that is the thing
that
I've been
sounds
doing.
Healthy.
Mm-hmm.
What's a bad thing I'm doing?
I mean,
what's you're not doing?
Yeah, what you're not doing.
Yeah.
So I'm not going out, which means a lot of like the usual self-care things that I like to do to make myself feel better, I'm also not doing, which means in order to find some sort of stability and to ground myself, I'm working way more than I probably should be. But that's not a chore I'm skimping on. I just feel like I maybe have, in a normal situation, I've potentially picked up a really bad habit, but I feel like it's actually a good habit right now. I worry that we haven't warmed up. We're not ready to like drop the big truth bombs.
Okay.
This is a tough warm-up question.
I'll give you one.
All right.
I let my laundry pile up, mostly because I forget it exists, but also because I don't wear socks anymore because I don't go outside. Except when I do, because there's no point. My floors are clean. And so the socks don't get in the laundry as often. So that's like socks are kind of one of those first things you get where it's like, oh, shoot, I got to do laundry because I got to go somewhere tomorrow. Whereas now it's like, oh, I guess I should do laundry, but it's not like I'm going anywhere tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, and socks are just fuzzy foot prisons anyway. Why would you care? Like, if you don't have to wear them, don't.
Down with socks. I'm actually pretty big on team no sock here. I guess one thing that's noticeably different in our household is we're cooking more, which means there's more dishes, which means we're having more dishes related issues of just like, the wok is still dirty. Well, you know, if you're only cooking a couple times, it's easier because you're like, I can sit for a day. But if you don't cook for, oh God, Joe just walked by and is giving me the stink eye. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. I'm sorry.
I mean, you are neglecting the dishes and Joe is perfect as always. Right?
This is on me. We're all aware of whose problem this is, right? This is a me problem.
I mean, our dishes do stack up faster than they used to. And it's not like they're not getting done. It's just, they have to get done more often, which is just a little annoying in the fact that I don't really like doing dishes, but also annoying in the fact of how like obvious it is you're not going out to do meals. Yeah.
Meal prep and planning is a real chore when you've got to do it 3 meals a day. Right? Well, I mean, like, who plans breakfast? Breakfast is like a carbohydrate.
Yeah. You're like, okay, more cereal. Good.
Next question. everybody in the house has their carbohydrate of choice, and that's breakfast, and that's like good enough. But like shopping and meal planning is a lot of work now, especially when you're like, I'm going grocery shopping and I have to strategize to buy like 2 weeks worth of groceries, including like what fruit is the least ripe, so it will be ripe by the time I can eat it.
Yeah. You load up on greens, and then all your greens spoil, and then you feel bad about yourself. You don't have enough spoons to feel bad about yourself. You're like, why do I even buy a vegetable? And then you're like, I haven't had a vegetable in a week. I need a vegetable. And then that vicious circle repeats, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You were going to jump in, Heather?
I was just going to say, hot tip, which might not work for you, Kathleen, because I know you've got multiple people in your house who have to get up early. But if you sleep in, breakfast doesn't have to even happen.
Is your
skip right to lunch?
Adult thing you've dropped is you're only down to like 2 meals a day or something like that?
I mean, previously my adult thing that I dropped was being awake during the day and just staying up all night. But I've managed to sort of flip back, so that's less a problem.
All right, fair enough. Shall we move on to our next question? Oh, apologies, Kathleen.
Oh, I was going to say, I haven't actually listed an adult thing I've dropped. I've just bitched. So
I didn't want to put you on the spot. You know, we can share if you want to.
Okay. No, it's fine. Like, you know, if anybody cares, the adult thing that I have dropped is I just like gave up on like trying to maintain a healthy diet every single day. It's like, I don't care. I'm just gonna have pizza for dinner and lunch the next day and the next dinner. Yes, that's
you do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, and I have also like getting outside and exercising every day. Well, at first was impossible, and now is merely challenging.
Was it Ben who tweeted that you could order pizza more than once a week or something? And I was just like, once a week? We do it once a month, maybe. What is this once a week news?
So the story behind that tweet is Ben and I had a social distance coffee hangout, which was lovely, by the way. Highly recommend. Just like find an open space where you can sit 2 meters away from somebody and have delicious takeout coffees. And I was sitting there and I was like, yeah, COVID has changed so much stuff. Like Joe and I are eating a ton of pizza. We order pizza once a week. Can you believe it? And Ben was just like, sweats. Yeah, once a week is a ton. And it was one of those weird things where I didn't mean to say anything, but inadvertently yeah, you know, that's the context behind that tweet. Yeah.
Oh.
All right,
That's
let's
amazing.
move on. Our next question from Samurai Tiger 19 for Serge. That's me. What is a good coffee to drink if you want to start drinking coffee black? Now, obviously, if you two have anything important you want to add on coffee, please jump in. But I think the most important thing to start with is this is judgment-free. Whatever coffee you want to drink is totally valid, especially with the current situation. Don't put any more pressure on yourself than you need to. Everything is delicious. That being said, a lot of the times people dilute their coffee with milk or cream or sugar is because they don't enjoy the flavor. What happens? And the most common thing that people complain about is bitterness. This is too bitter. I need to add sugar to make it more sweet. This is too bitter, so I need to add cream in order to dilute or soften that very harsh bitter flavor. So if you find coffees that aren't as dark, that aren't as roasty, or that are very deliberately sweet, and surprise, there's very delicious, sweet, fruity, wonderful coffee out there that can be discovered if you look for it. And you can try that. Another thing you can do if your problem isn't bitterness, but it's a flavor, is you can gradually change the amount you're putting in. So say you have a 16-ounce latte. Well, try a 12-ounce latte or try an 8-ounce latte. You know, just start reducing that number and seeing if you enjoy it. You can always have a sip and then add more to balance the taste. But I mean, taste is a learned experience, and you can always adjust and refine your palate. You don't just all of a sudden start liking or disliking something. You can wiggle around. Well, I mean, it's pretty easy to try something and dislike it. That's my approach to flavor tasting. I don't know if you two have anything to add on that particular one.
Very wise, Serge.
I've never liked coffee.
That's fair. And you know what? Power to you, friend. Not everyone has to like all the same things, even if I love it, right?
Yeah, I do think it's very fascinating how much you know about coffee. So that's cool. And I like the smell of it. I just don't like the taste of it.
Yeah, fair.
Heather, you should try getting a pour over. That's like
I went with Serge on like that coffee tour thing he did, and everything he gave me while I was like, this tastes different than the coffees I've had before. I still did not like. I'm okay with that. I drink plenty of tea as it is.
Yeah.
I like that. You're like, this is a different thing that I also don't like. Neat. All right, let's move on to our next question here. Day04 asks, Heather, this exact thing is something you're heavily involved in behind the camera. This exact thing being askLRR. Do you delegate any of that responsibility whenever you're in front of the camera? So who is doing your job now that you're on this podcast?
Well, so when it comes to something like this podcast, where my role is producer, because that's like the credit that shows up at the end, the stuff that I do is gathering questions and a lot of prep work before and a lot of after stuff. So being on the camera doesn't do it doesn't displace any of my time that I would be doing the other stuff anyway. So for something like this, I'm not delegating my task to somebody else. If this was something like Dice Friends, where I was running tech for quite a while we were in the studio, if I was on camera for that, then someone clearly else would have to run tech, because I can't be in both places at once. I'm not as talented as Paul in that regard. But I think for the most part, it's that none of my stuff interacts in that way, so I don't generally have to delegate for being on a thing. I have to delegate for other reasons, like taking time off or taking sick days or anything else that any of the rest of us would have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very solid answer. You're like, I do my job well. All right. I mean, let's move on to the next one here. Seth Hanasek, I'll just say I nailed that, asks, Kathleen, I'm a big fan of your writing. What's the first thing you can remember being proud of having written?
When I was in 8th grade, we got to write a story. We had to write something about the Magna Carta from the point of view of the people that were there, to try and understand why the Magna Carta was important. And I did a comic strip about it, but it was really dumb and I got high marks, but not necessarily for a great and deep understanding of the material, but for an inventive and colorful way of presenting it. There was definitely a scene where everyone lost their clothes and had to find a zoot suit vending machine, because 12-year-old Kathleen had just discovered what a zoot suit was, and I thought the phrase was inherently funny. So I got really good grades on that, despite the fact that I really didn't understand what the Magna Carta was till many years later. I was really proud of having written that.
We went deep there. Interesting. I thought it might have been, you won a reward, because you're like an award-winning writer, right?
Oh, but everyone was hoping for some secret fanfic thing.
Right? Exact.
This predates all the secret fanfic, though, right? Because I was so young at the time. That's the one it's like the first thing I can really clearly thinking like, oh man, this is great. And people loved it. People thought it was people were delighted by it because it was ridiculous. But like I said, in retrospect, didn't actually, do most of the things the assignment required.
I mean, I love the fact that you're like, oh, suits. Well, I need to put that in there. I'm like, yeah, that's stuff I would have done as a kid too. I've been like, I need to put in the thing that I've just discovered.
Yeah, exactly. It was very cartoon logic. So yeah.
I'm thinking back on a story you told me of going to like XOXO for the first time, and you're interacting with all these creators, and you're like, yeah, I'm a professional writer, I guess, trying to figure out how to describe it when you're networking with people. And I thought that was just like cool as hell. You've got a face on that you're still not comfortable with that. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay. I had a lot of like, when I went to XOXO, I was like, partially due to the venue was like in an arena. And so like it was a lot of like large spaces with large crowds, which is like the literal opposite of an environment that makes me feel comfortable. So I came away from XOXO and it was really cool. And I saw lots of cool stuff, but I was just like, felt, sort of tremendous imposter syndrome the entire time I was there. But yeah, writing is just a small part of my job. I actually haven't written anything in ages because of the stupid pandemic, but.
All right. Our next question by Michael Hutton. All three of you have streamed with your partners. What do you think was their funniest on-screen moment with you? And what do you think they would say for yours in return? Now, on my personal channel, I personally feel like I'm the third most popular draw. There's Joe. She's the #1 draw for my channel. Then there's my literal empty chair. People often seem to get a lot more excited when I walk out of the room and leave the chair on. And then there's me holding down 3rd place. Now, it's not bad being top 3. So it's like, what's the best Joe moment? Well, I mean, all of it. And one thing I was actually very, very lucky about is back 20, 30 years ago when we were actually going to conventions and you have to leave for a week or two, Joe would actually take over my channel, which is really cool. We just called it the Joe Takeover. And something you worry about as a content creator is like a dip in your content going out because viewership goes like this. Like it builds very slowly and drops very quickly, and being able to rely on just having hours on there and high quality stuff because Joe's adorable and very clever. So that's, I maybe made that a little bit more sincere than the funniest on-screen moment, but here we are.
Aww.
Oh, I've got some good ones, I'm sure, with Beach, because it's been a while. It's since we don't do a lot of on-stream stuff together. We used to more when he was doing Beach's Backlog. But we did do a stream on, I think, last Christmas. We did, I think it was last Christmas. It might have been earlier, but we were playing Super Mario Brothers 3 on the Nintendo Online thing. And I made fun of Beach a lot for cheating by using the rewind feature that they put on the thing to make there's like a game of memory you can play. And there was a point where it's like, no, you have to play it sincerely because that's the point, even though I know that you know all the things about checking what the patterns are, because there's like only 4 different layouts they use or something. And there was a point where he pushed the wrong thing on one, and I was like, but it's that one. It has to be that one. And he wouldn't believe me until he had to believe me because I knew. And as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty funny when I do that stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know if he agrees. I don't know what he thinks the funniest moment where we've been on. I think he thinks I'm funnier than I think I am. So maybe he's got a different moment.
Well, I mean, Beej and Heather moments are like a fine wine. Who can choose just one? And, everyone's taste is different. So let him like what he likes.
Do you have a story?
I
imagine it's a matter of picking one, right?
Well, the problem being they all sort of blur together, right? Because I've been doing this with Graham for a long time, and but recently we haven't been on stream together in a long time, and so I'm trying. Like, I think it would probably be we've done some really good work together at Desert Bus, but it's just like I don't know, Desert Bus 2019's Corp Line was really good, right? So like it's hard to pick a moment for that.
All of Corp Line is good, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I can't really think of anything specific, which it sounds like the worst dig, but it's just that there's a lot, right? And I'm like, is that the right thing I'm thinking of? Is that the one detail, or have I meshed it up with something else? Is that the stream we were on? So
I think that's a fair thing just to talk about in an interesting sort of disconnect that can happen with fans is they'll watch a show, even if they go through a backlog or something like that, and a moment will be very fresh in their mind, and they'll ask a question and be like, oh yeah, 6 months ago when you were playing this game, this moment happened. What was going through your mind at the time? And you're like, I don't even remember playing that game.
Oh, Serge, have you not had the moment where someone comes up to you and they quote you something that you said at a convention, and you're just like, hello, person who has said something very strange to me, because you forget that you've even said it?
Yeah.
Never mind that.
Yeah, this is someone who you've never seen before in your life saying a strange and cryptic phrase to you, and it turns out that something that you said to them, and it's like it's a profoundly shaking experience. You're like, what?
And that's not a bump on the fans, because
no.
I just wish they give some context for me, because I've also been to anime conventions where people literally run around and scream random things at each other because you're wearing a specific cosplay, and you definitely don't know what's going on in their heads.
I hope.
Do you remember?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Serge.
All right. I was going to say, I hope fans don't think that we have a memory issue or something like that. There's just a weird thing of when you do, I don't want to say the same thing because obviously there's a lot of variety in the games we play and the shows that we do, and it changes. But you're like, okay, lights go on, you work, and then you're like, okay, work is done. You put that aside, and you're like, all right, work is done. I'm going to take that part of my brain and, I don't know, throw it into the sea or something. I find this is very common amongst a lot of us. This happens a lot where we talk about this weird selective memory on a show that we've done or a moment we've had. And it's not to say that what we're doing isn't authentic or genuine, because we're having a great time and we're laughing. But I think back to it, you're like, can you tell me one of the best memes we had on camera like 6 months ago? Like what happened before holes or before pogophers, right? Like I don't know any of our jokes, but
it's also just a very improv mindset, like, because improv, the idea of is you're constantly picking up a new thing and then throwing away that thing to get the new shiny sentence you've just said. And so to constantly you're not really committing anything to memory. And there's also just that idea that sometimes something that happens to someone or something they see is very important, which is great, but maybe it has less impact on you because you're already doing that, so that eventually is just going to be a common thing that happened for you.
So we're not goldfish. Okay.
No, I don't think any of us are goldfish yet.
Yeah, I just have like the mice that are running my brain is like there's this big reel-to-reel where everything's being recorded, and occasionally the two mice that are in charge of swapping the reels, they drop something because they're clumsy, and then the reel tumbles away, and they're like, "Oh crap!" And while they're chasing that, it's just spooling into the background. I'm making a pile, and then the pile catches fire. And at that point, like everything else in my brain, and I have completely focused out, and I'm just like staring at the sky, thinking about whatever as the mice are running amok is like my problem. So. Can I describe my perfect moment with working with Graham?
Please,
though?
Yes.
please.
This is the synthesis of of Graham and me together, which is we will do something and I will say a joke that is like I don't know, like erudite and slightly belabored, and then Graham will just like do an amazing quip, and I will go. Like that. That is like, I would say, you know, probably 90% of my favorite interactions with Graham, where he just like says like 3 perfectly funny words. And it's just like, and like with precision timing. And he gets me every time.
I like that. That's very nice. Well, now that we've heard so much about your creative process, Kathleen, let's dive into this a little bit more. Danielle Fontaine asks, for someone who can't remember how to be creative, any advice? So tell us more about the mice and the spool.
It's not just mice and spools. It's a full Looney Tunes cast running around in there. I'll have you know.
Right.
You know, but I think the best way to be creative is just to try doing a thing. You don't have to be creative in the way that you really need to be creative. Like if you have writer's block or something like that, you should just try. Like I decided I was going to try to do paper mache. Yeah.
Where did that come from? I love it. I love it.
I don't know. I want to try it next time. I'm going to try to make some weavings or something like that. It sounds so ridiculous, but why don't I just want to try doing something with my hands? So yeah, I got some newspaper and I got some wheat starch and like covered like a cat food container in like in paper mache strips and let it dry and then primed it and then let dry and then painted it. And Penelope and I did the whole thing together. And so, you know, she was like minorly interested in it. But for me, it was a fun and interesting challenge.
I suppose the difficulty in this question is it's not specific in any particular creative direction, right? It's like, how do you be creative?
Just try doing anything creative. Paper mache, why not? Paper, you don't have to get like special wheat starch. You can use flour. There's recipes online. Right? It's cheap. Flour, newspaper, and something you don't mind getting wet and soggy. There you go.
Beach towel. Let's go. And
well,
any tips, Heather?
So creativity is a lot like motivation. Sometimes it just goes for a walk far, far away from you. And it doesn't want to be near you. Maybe you need to go for a walk far, far away from it. I know it's basically just do something, do anything if you're trying to force creativity and you're not having fun with it, because the idea of creativity is that you're supposed to be having fun generally, or at least that it's easier when you're having fun, then maybe it is time to go do something else. Maybe read a book or watch a movie or go talk to your friends or get a coffee or just do anything else so that your brain can wander and find itself again.
Yup. There was a very noisy motorcycle. I had to mute my microphone. The context that I get this question the most in is in Minecraft, because Minecraft, I have to make builds. And, considering I think I did 1,000 hours of Minecraft last year, you can quickly run into an issue of, what do I do right now? What do I do next? How do you come up with an idea? And when, you have to do this creative content over and over and over, because the game is a sandbox, it doesn't ever point you in a direction. Some people are like, where are you getting this idea from? The air, weird conversations that come back and forth, a spin-off anecdote. What's up, Kathleen?
I was going to say, just sometimes maybe just sit around and play around for a while and just like, what if I make a wall here? I'd do this in Animal Crossing. What if I put a cliff here? How about water this way? How about like I could spend hours doing the same part of my island over and over again just to see what I like, right? Because I don't have any plan.
I mean, using Animal Crossing or Minecraft as another example, visit what other people have done. Take inspiration, because there's a difference between inspiration and plagiarism. You can look at something and be like, oh, I love this. Now, how can I take this idea and make it my own, or take this idea and make it fit within the context of something I'm already working on? Or, here's another idea. Build what somebody else has already done to learn. Because maybe one of the issues you have with creativity is you're blocked by what you perceive to be a limitation of your own. You're like, oh, I can't get beyond this certain thing. I'm not good enough to do this. I don't have enough practice getting beyond a certain thing. Paint by numbers, right? Follow how it goes. Maybe you'll learn how shading works. Maybe you'll understand how depth works in a certain thing. Maybe you'll understand how a narrative works and writing works. If you just follow something along, you're like, oh, I get it. Now I can do my own thing.
Definitely going and looking at what other people have done or examples is a really good thing. I do that a lot with thumbnails. I just browse YouTube and look at what other people's thumbnails are. And then I look at the ones that I don't like. And I'm like, cool, never doing that. And then I go looking for ones that I do like. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see that you've positioned this thing because of this reason or this reason.
Yeah. What do I like about this?
Yeah. But it's also useful to know what you don't like about a thing. Because then maybe that's the wrong direction.
Yeah, I started an idea stealing, inspiration stream for Animal Crossing just for this reason. Just look at great things. You don't have to do it, but maybe that will spark your imagination.
I do appreciate I absolutely love this and I'll never do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's like crafts I look at and I'm like, that is incredibly time consuming and it looks amazing and that is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad it exists and I respect you for making it, right?
Exactly.
All right. Shall we move on to our final question today?
Yes.
Brian aptly asks, of the three of you, who is the most evil?
So do we want to do this where we all try to be the most evil, or do we want to pitch someone else as being the most evil?
Well, I think we should run down our own evil resumes and like the type of evil that we are. So, because what do villains love more than telling people about their evil plans?
All right, you want to start us off, Kathleen?
Oh, me? I am. I like to think of myself as the kind, as evil, like the patrician from Discworld is evil. Like
Very nice.
I'm not.
I'm gonna need context from that one. I'm not really familiar with that character.
So he is the political leader of the Discworld's largest city, Ankh-Morpork. But he's like very behind the scenes. He doesn't like go out and like shout his power from the rooftop. He considers that to be, inefficient and a waste of time. And he's murderous. He's ruthless. But he does it because he is he's lawful neutral. He's lawful evil, but for the very neutral reason of protecting Ankh-Morpork and its tax base. But you know what I mean, right? So I always
does this tie into you?
Because I love rules and I love keeping things organized. But if something was to like threaten the people I love and care about, I would find what was bothering them and I would make it not be a problem anymore. With ruthless efficiency and excellent planning skills and checklists, so it would happen.
Oh, all right. All right. I suppose I should go next. I'm trying to think of the alignment of what kind of evil I would be. Probably in the chaotic thing. It's definitely not like a lawful style of evil. I think my evilness comes in the ability for me to say incredibly stupid things with well-meaning intentions to put people in really uncomfortable situations and not even know it. If that makes sense, it'd just be like accidentally roasting Ben about his pizza consumption. And,
what about
just
Serge?
be like super earnest in saying something and being like, maybe does that work? I don't know. I'm digging
Serge.
here.
What about
Yeah.
Serge? What about literal evil Serge? I will remind you, we literally never have to twist your rubber arm to unleash. Like you're just like, if we just mentioned Serge, you're like, yeah, all right. And like, I feel like that's your repressed evil.
So Serge is maybe more of a Jekyll and Hyde, kind of thing.
Okay. All right. We can roll with this. So there are two
Which
Serges.
one's the Jekyll? Which one's the Hyde?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. There's the public facing Serge, and then there's the secret Serge who comes out after dark.
Yeah.
What darkness lies in the heart of Serge? Snurge knows. Okay. All right. Heather.
Well, as we all know, I'd never be caught doing anything evil. But I keep tallies and lists, and I definitely know the way to scooch other people into doing. I don't know. If I'm going to be evil, it's going to be through scheming and manipulation. Definitely, not getting your hands dirty. That's just how you get taken out as a villain.
Yeah, no crumbs, no trails.
Yeah, but not. I'm not thinking something like the patrician who is definitely high up in political type things. I would definitely be more in the shadows of maybe a thief guild or something within that Discworld thing. I've only read a couple of books. I'm still working on that.
I like it. No, this paints a pretty vivid picture here. Work smarter, not harder kind of evil.
Yeah, my Commer Hustle character who's probably that turned up to 11.
All right, so we've all pitched what kind of evil we are. Who's the most evil? How do we evaluate those? Because those are like fairly three distinct kinds of evil here.
I think we ourselves should not answer the question, and we should just make people comment in the comment section below.
Oh God, I like that. All right, dear viewer.
Yeah, absolutely. Is Heather the rogue skulking through with poisons and schemes? Is she the most evil? Is the terrible threat of Serge turning around to reveal Snurge, his evil alter ego? Or is it me filing paperwork late into the night and sealing your doom through bureaucracy?
Are we like the coolest D&D party ever? No. Or do we just suck? I don't know.
I don't know that we get anything done if we're all trying to manipulate other people to doing things.
Yeah. I think we're all
the
mid-bosses.
DM is just like, I give up.
Yeah.
DM just walks out of the room. He's like, I pitched a low ball, an easy curve ball or something to you right there. And you all gave up. You just walked out.
I know Kathleen and I both pulled out bullet journals, and we had to spend a lot of time drawing some stuff in them and making some lists. And it's gonna be a while before we even get to rolling those dice.
Yeah, well, I'm still designing my character sheet. Christ,
I haven't heard back from my artist yet for the artwork. We're gonna have to wait. He's like, I asked you to roll initiative. You're like, Well then, friends, I think that is going to do it for this month's askLRR. Thank you so much for listening. A reminder that everything we do is brought to you by you, with your support over at the Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. And of course, askLR very specifically is brought to you by YouTube memberships. This show would not exist without it. And the questions are brought to you by the members. So if you want to ask future LR people questions, that's how you do it. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.